Boys and girls, what couldn't have possibly come at a worse time for the Walt Disney Company when they're already facing a serious proxy battle that comes up next Wednesday that I cannot wait to see how all of that turns out. Yes, the voting is currently ongoing. If you've got shares of Disney, time to make your decision as to who you want to back. Do you want to back the Nelson Peltz and all of the rest of the new people, or do you want to continue backing the disastrous dumpster fire that is all things Bob Iger over at the Walt Disney Company? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's one more activist company out there, one more investor group that is simply not putting up with what the Walt Disney Company has been doing, and this could not come at a worse time when they have their proxy battle literally looming in less than a week. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very good sign out there for anybody that does not like the current direction that the Walt Disney Company has been going down the last few years, because this is one more sign of the tides turning against them and things absolutely changing, because not only are they having the proxy battle going on, but now they're getting sued again. Ladies and gentlemen, Blackwell's Capital sues Disney seeking details of a Value Act relationship. The latest development in the Disney proxy battle has been the activist investors airing credible suspicion of wrongdoing at the House of Mouse. And most likely that wrongdoing means actual illegal things. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not the only one that's suing them as well, because America First Legal is now also pushing out there an article. They said they sent a demand letter to the Disney CEO and board of directors notifying them and documenting the following. Breach of a fiduciary duty, misleading shareholders, intentional violations of federal civil rights law, and mismanagement erasing 40% of value. Now, this is a very long thread over the American First Legal thing. You want to go through all of the statements and all of the documentation they've got, go right ahead. But we know American First Legal has their own political agendas, their own political ties, so I don't imagine this actually going anywhere. But this actual lawsuit, this will be adjudicated in a courtroom and will actually have to be talked about. And this right here could get very spicy and very interesting. So we're going to check out this article from thewrap.com, get into all of the juicy details and see exactly what is going on. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe or follow if you have not already as well, because all of that stuff, it really helps things out. So let's check this out from thewrap.com. Blackwell's Capital sues Disney seeking details of Value Act relationship. The latest development in the Disney proxy battle has the activist investors airing credible suspicion of wrongdoing at the House of Mouse, which honestly, would that surprise any of us at this point? We know how Hollywood accounting is. We know how many shell games they play, moving money around, trying to move things to one platform or another to try to make it look bad on their bottom line, which is what something Disney's done several times. There's a few different examples. You've had stuff that was initially slated for Disney Plus, like the Echo series, and then all of a sudden they decide to also premiere it on Hulu. Why do they also premiere it on Hulu? Well, they said it was because it's for a mature audience, and that's more meant for the Hulu genre. No. It was to split the costs on their books to where it wouldn't all be on Disney Plus. They're trying to do the best they can to make their streaming look like it's more successful than what it actually is, when it's continually been bleeding them money year after year, losing them billions of dollars, and it's just going to continue doing that because Disney doesn't offer anything any actual fans out there want to see. So the latest twist is that Blackwell's Capital filed suit Thursday suggesting possible disclosure violations in how the entertainment giant dealt with hedge fund Value Act Capital. Reuters reported the suit filed in Delaware court focuses on the relationship between Disney and Value Act Capital and an information sharing agreement the two signed in January. The suit includes a demand from Blackwell's to inspect records to investigate its credible suspicion of wrongdoing regarding Disney's dealings and disclosures related to Value Act, which obviously is very much like a disclosure thing. In court case, they're wanting to look at the records. They're wanting to look at the files. And I guarantee you, if you don't think none of this will come out, if they do actually get access to these records and these files to look at them, I have a bridge to sell you, because I guarantee you these are going to come out. This stuff is going to get leaked out to the media. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever. So Disney, of course, has responded, and color a shock there. It's typical lawyer speak nonsense. Disney told the news outlet the suspicions are baseless and said the lawsuit is a desperate attempt to gain attention for their slate of director candidates. Oh, yes. I'm sure they can't prove any of this in court. I'm sure they have no evidence behind them whatsoever. Come on, Disney. Open up your books. Let us look at them. I'm sure everything's on the up and up with the House of Mouse, just like every other studio out there in Hollywood. I'm sure you guys have done nothing nefarious to try to prop up your stock price, to try to make it look better to your investors than what it actually does. No, Bob Iger would never do something like that, now would he? Blackwell's, along with another hedge fund, Nelson Peltz Treon Fund Management, is trying to convince investors to shun several Disney's boards of directors, candidates, and vote in their own company's annual shareholders meeting on Wednesday. Blackwell's is looking for 3 seats on Disney's board, has proposed a major review of Disney's real estate and strategy with the possibility of splitting off parts of the company. Please sell off some of these franchises that they don't deserve anymore. Trion is seeking 2 seats, with Peltz focused largely on Disney's plan for choosing a successor to CEO Bob Iger, along with upping profit margins from streaming, obviously, which is something they haven't done. What do you mean upping profit margins from streaming? There have been no profits on streaming since they launched Disney+. Disney, Peltz, and Blackwells have been inundating shareholders with messages and mailers in their efforts to draw votes for their candidates in recent weeks. 2 shareholder advisory firms issued a split decision on the board nominations last week, with Glass Lewis backing Disney's slate and Institutional Shareholder Services backing Peltz's election, though not Trion's second candidate, former Disney CFO Jay Rosalo, which is something we talked about in earlier videos. If you haven't checked out all the details on that, go check out some of the other videos, but that's exactly what we've been talking about. This is just one of those situations where, and that is the company right there too, the Institutional Shareholder Services, these are the same people that were responsible for getting rid of Eisner and replacing him with Iger. So they're literally almost basically turning on Iger, except they're trying to split the baby. They're trying to pull a Solomon and split the baby here. And of course, that's never going to work out very well. They're just going to end up looking like idiots. And they're going to have both sides mad at him no matter who ends up winning. So there you go. ValueAct Chief Investment Office and CEO Mason Morfitt is backing Disney's efforts to keep its board intact. Of course they are. The company issued, and I think ValueAct, if I remember correctly, ValueAct were the ones that were out there pushing a lot of the agenda-driven nonsense. They were the ones out there pushing a lot of the company stuff, wanting these kind of things and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, color us shocked there was probably some shady dealings going on in between the two companies. The company praised Disney's efforts to bolster its theme parks and move beyond the streaming wars in a presentation to investors earlier this month. Disney was not invested with ValueAct, and the firm no longer managed any money for the company when it started to build its stake in Disney last year. Reuters reported, citing a person familiar with ValueAct's business. The exact size of ValueAct's Disney holdings is not known. Probably much smaller than what Nelson, Peltz, and everybody else have behind them. So, goes on, ISS reports investors last week wrote the ValueAct indicated although its investments team met with Bob Iger on very limited occasions, Mason Morfitt did not have a personal relationship. Of course they don't. We don't believe any of this kind of stuff. So the suit is not the first time Blackwells has raised concern about the Disney ValueAct relationship. Earlier this month, the hedge fund accused Disney of failing to disclose that it had paid $95 million in fees beginning in 2013 to ValueAct to manage Disney's pension fund assets. Well, it sounds like they've had a very long relationship then, haven't they? It's noted that the firm was paid for management services through 2022. As the Blackwell spokesman told the outlet, shareholders are entitled to full disclosure about the ValueAct relationship, including, among other things, all fees to it by Disney in the last 10-year period leading up to ValueAct's endorsement of the board. Yes, because I'm sure that's not I'm sure that's just completely and totally coincidental. I'm sure that has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of relationship. I'm sure it's completely and totally because they believe in the future of Bob Iger and not the fact that they are completely and totally acolytes for the cult that are completely and totally possessed by the spirit of the age. I'm sure it has nothing to do with that in any way, shape, or form. Either way, boys and girls, this is more bad news for Bob Iger. This is more bad news for the House of Mouse, and it's just going to make next Wednesday even spicier and even more interesting to see what goes on. I'm really hoping the Disney shareholders make the right decision and vote in Nelson Peltz's slate of board members, and hopefully, maybe, at least at some future point down the road, we might get at least some semblance of the Disney one once had. But until that happens, and if this proxy battle ends up going the way that Bob Iger wants, boys and girls, it is the absolute last nail in the coffin for the once great Walt Disney Company. Because if Bob Iger continues the helm, it's only going one direction, and that is to continue the disastrous dumpster fire that the Walt Disney Company has been for quite a few years. And guess what? It'll be burned, baby, burned, and you'll just end up on the ash heap of history as what was once the great Walt Disney Company.